Hello Stampers, this is Kate with Kate's Creations, ready to show you a couple of cards today. This is a two for, like they say, 2 for 1. Using again the Framed Florets bundle. Having a lot of fun with this. This set has these lovely frames. These two cut out. This one just cuts out the design, and we're going to be using it today. And there's just a number of different ways that you can utilize these different frames to make a different look. And so I want to show you a couple more cards today. I've done 2 videos, I think, prior to this. I'm going to put the links in my description box below in case you haven't seen them, because they also use this set and some of this frame stuff, and there's just different ways that you can use them, and I want you to be able to see that because this is really quite versatile. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's definitely what we're using today. I'm going to be using Poppy Moments for the card, the first card, just using the this little die right here is meant to cut out a flower. But I'm using it to cut out my sentiment so that my sentiment has some shape to it. And that's just a different way that you can use your dies, you know, especially these hollow ones, the empty, empty center ones, because if you want, you fussy cut sometimes your phrases out, but this just gave it some shape, and you'll see how that looks on the card. So let's get started with card number 1. Let me show you what it looks like. It's this one. And get it up here where you can see it. So it uses that frame that has the hearts in it, and it cuts out the little hearts and makes an oval of hearts. This paper behind here is the Abigail Rose paper, and you can see all the instructions, or well, measurements and stuff up here in the corner. But I'll go through them too as I make the card. Most of you probably already know how to make them, but let me tell you a little bit about how I do it. So I started with a very vanilla because the Abigail Rose paper has a vanilla background to it. And so I used a very vanilla card base. It's 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4, and burnished. And it's going to make a side fold card. Now this paper is from the current mini catalog, and it was the Festive Foils specialty paper, and it's got these little lovely little shimmery things on there that look like, yeah, like that. You can see them. That look like snowflakes, but I didn't feel like they had to be snowflakes, and so that's why I used them for this particular card, and it's more of a Valentine card. So let's get that on here. Excuse me, got a piece of something I got to pick up there. There we go. And so this piece then is cut the foils paper 4 by 5 1/4, and it's going to go on the front of this card. This is the Abigail Rose paper, and it is cut 4 by 5 1/4 as well, and then it's colored. Now don't forget, in your love for blends pens, don't forget that we still have blender pens that we can use. And I have, before we had blends pens, I used these all the time. Because you can shade with them, you can get different hues and stuff, and you can see I've pre-colored most of this so that we wouldn't spend a lot of time on the video doing that, but you can see the shading in there. And when you're coloring, just use the marks they've already got there, those accent marks. Just use those as your cue for where to make something a little darker to give it some depth and stuff. It works out really, really well to just use those marks as your guide. So I left 2 leaves and 1 little flower for you to watch. The leaves I did with Old Olive, and I got to find the pen I used. That's it right there. And just colored it in. Now something you need to remember when you're coloring with these blender pens, they're called blender pens, onto the basic white or the very vanilla, if you fuss around too much, your paper will start to pill up. So you want to be, you don't want to mess with the coloring too much. It just becomes too much, and the paper can't handle it. So that's just something you need to kind of know. I've already colored the center of this, and that was done with a So Saffron and this blender pens as well. Now this is, I put down Real Red, but I actually used Cherry Cobbler, so I put down the wrong name, and I'm sorry about that. But you start out and you've got darker, and so I just did these accent lines darker, just like this. You don't have to be perfect about it. And then I wanted, of course, the fill to be a lighter color. And with my blender pen, you can see the marks on here. I just lay it kind of on its side and brush back and forth until I get down to the color I want. Now it's looking a lot lighter. And then I can come back and color in the lighter part. Well, there we go. Just like that. And there's that last flower. So that gives you some tips on how I color with the blender pens. I think it looks absolutely lovely. I certainly didn't have to color every flower because of course it's going to get some covered up, but I just wanted you to see what it can look like. It creates a beautiful background if you wanted a colored background. What's special about the Abigail Rose papers is that it's kind of monochromatic and it's beautiful in itself, but this is what I wanted for this particular card. So now we're going to attach this to the front of the card with just stamp and seal. Just like that. Get my card up here so I can center it well. That looks pretty good right like that. There we go. And then we're going to put this on here just like this, and I'm also going to put it on flat. I debated about raising it up. This paper's a little bit flimsy. I decided to just leave it flat and raise the two pieces, get that where you can see it, and raise these two pieces instead. So let's go ahead and do that, and we're just gonna get it on the corners here, and where I can I put a little bit there. I did try to stay fairly close to the hearts as well. You can see what I'm doing there. And of course I want to get my corners. Let go, let go. This stuff is definitely sticky. So yeah, it's getting there. I got to get a little bit over here on this side yet. Cooperate. I should get out my silicone sheet because, see, I'm just going off the paper because it's not very wide there, and yet I still want some there. So we might have to cover that up before we... Make sure you keep your hearts right side up. Don't put them on upside down. I actually didn't do that this time. Sometimes I do. Today is December 1st. How many of you have got Christmas decorations up already? I have had a bad bout of some sciatica this week and haven't been able to get out and around very much, so it's been a little bit of a challenge this week for me, so I don't have much up. Okay, this is the flower, and so let's color the flower. I did save this part for you. This is a piece of where my sentiment's going to go that I cut out with that poppy die. And so let's get this flower. I couldn't keep you from seeing a little bit of what I do. And so we'll just color in our leaves. Again, this is just Old Olive on the leaves. And I didn't try to get different colors and stuff. I just did them all in the same color. Sometimes when the leaves are different, I color them differently. But I didn't for this one. I just left them all the same. Again, it's a matter of taste. And it still looks absolutely lovely. So... you know, we all worry so much when we make a card. And we see our little flaws and our little faux pas, and we go, oh, and we debate whether to use it or keep it or send it. But people are so thrilled. I have a shoebox where I put all of the cards I've received through the year from friends and family, and I was looking at it the other day because at the end of the year I pull them all out and look through them again, and I empty it and start over. And I have a shoebox absolutely packed full of cards of gratitude from people. And you know, that's just really, really special. Where's my So Saffron? Here it is. I'll cover that up. Hopefully you can do a screenshot. And I'm looking for the end of the pen that's yellow. There we go. You can clean these too. I mean, you can do this, what I did to lighten the color, you can just do that back and forth until the color pretty much fades out. And then even though it might be stained on the tip, you can reuse these over and over again. I've had my blender pens for a very long time. They last a very long time. So I'm going to do the centers of my flowers here. Just like that. And then I'm going to start out with the light color this time. And like I say, you don't want to fuss too much. So I'm just, you know, once it's on there, I'm just done. You, can't get too, I don't know, perfectionistic maybe is the word I'm looking for. So yeah, I was getting ready to put up my Christmas lights, and I'd like to know how the lights can burn out before, I mean, I put them away, they weren't burned out. I get them out to get them all set up to put up, and like 10 of them, 10 of the bulbs were burned out. And so I had to go get bulbs. So I went to Home Depot, and they only had 3 boxes of bulbs left on the shelf, so I bought all 3 of them. And the guy took the tag off the shelf and said, "That's it, we won't have any more this year." Oh, really? It's only December 1st. I was surprised. Okay, so there's our flower, beautifully colored. Let me close these up. Get stuff out of my way. I am going to need this for the sentiment yet. And I'm using the sentiment from the same stamp set. And I am just going to stamp it with the cherry cobbler right onto this. I'm sorry, I got to pull it off screen so I can look straight down at it, or I won't be able to see. There we go. And there's our sentiment. Okay, now it's done. And I had dimensionals out, but I put them away. Here they are. And I'm just going to put a couple of dimensionals on the back of this. As you can see, I'm using a piece of scrap that stamped on the back of and didn't like what was happening, and so I turned it over. And the world will never know. And there's our sentiment. And then here's the flowers to kind of just frame that beautiful oval. And there's card number 1 today. Very, very simple, fun to make, and yet beautiful too. Isn't that just lovely? Okay, now here comes prize number 2. When I cut out these frames, of course, now all these little hearts fall out, and I go, the first thing that came to my mind was shaker card. Okay, so that's what I did. I did a shaker card. Isn't that cute? It's so fun. So for this one, again, it's just the Abigail Rose, not the Abigail Rose, the Framed Florets set, and the sentiment, I used the stitched rectangles for that. So let me show you the trick I did for this. You've got, do stay tuned. I try to give you tips and tricks all the time. Okay, so I saved all those little hearts that came out of those 2 cards I made, and actually made some more, and I had some of the red shimmer paper, glimmer paper, and so I added some shimmery stars as well. You can see them in there, or hearts I should say, they're not stars. And so we're starting with a piece of very vanilla thick 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4, ready to make another side fold greeting card. Then layer 1. On this card I used real red, and then I realized that this color was cherry cobbler. So for the second time around, I am going to be using, get it here without spilling my little hearts all over. I've got them saved there. So I am using cherry cobbler for the first layer here. And I cut it this 5.5 by 4 1/4, which is the full size of the front of the card. I didn't want any vanilla border. So I just stuck that to that tape. Let's see if we saved it. Yes, strips. It'll be okay. Gotta watch out for me, I tell you. Something I should tell you, when I do that, they would take one of your embossing buddies and stamp it on there, and then your stuff won't stick to it accidentally. How's that for a tip for the day? You'll have to let me know what you think of that. And there we go. There's piece number 1. And like I say, it's the same size, so it's just getting it lined up perfectly with the card front and laying it down. There we go. Then the Abigail Rose paper again. This time I didn't want to color the paper because I want those little red hearts and things to really stand out. So now's when you like it just plain like it was designed. And I'm just going to attach it flat as well. I do have to tell you, I had a friend who's a downline, and she made Thanksgiving cards, and she sent me one. And she emailed me and said, "You'll get your Thanksgiving card late." They all came back to me. The post office wouldn't mail them. So she went to the post office to find out why. And they had gems on them, like the small rhinestones or something. And the post office told her, "We will no longer mail anything that has a bump on it like that. You have to pay $1 a card to mail them." So that's something to be aware of if you're having problems with your cards being. Now this one is 4 by 5 1/4, and so it does leave that red border around, so you can enjoy that beautiful red border. And then you need some window sheets, and then you're going to use, let me show you the trick here. I wanted to use this piece that I cut out to make the window, okay? It needs a window sheet, and so I needed an oval that would fit. I don't have oval dies, so I took this die. Let me get it for you. This die, this oval, is the perfect size needed to go behind this to create a window. So I put this onto my window sheet. I did need to shim it, and I shimmed it with like 4 sheets of 20-pound copy paper so that it would cut all the way through that acetate window sheet. But it created my little frame that I needed. So, I mean the window that I needed, excuse me. So that's how I got my piece for my window. And to attach it, I just used this Aqua Mono Liquid Glue. Again, it has a fine tip on it, so it's easy to use. And I put glue just very lightly. You don't want to get too much because it'll just squish out. And you don't want it to do that because then it'll look funky on your vinyl, or your acetate. And there's that. And then I am going to, I think I'm going to do it this way. Try and not get gunk on my window sheet. I'm not sure if I did or not. I can get that off there. I did get a little mark. I'm trying to see if it'll clean off here. Hold on. Okay, I got it off there. Okay, and then I can just lay this down, and I can see where I'm laying it because I've got it upside down and stuck it on there. And we'll give that a chance to dry. Now when you put your window on your card, you've got to need a piece of dimensional strips. And it takes, 1 strip will go all the way around. Leaves a little tiny gap, but it's not enough to hurt anything. 1 strip will do it. And so we're going to just very carefully lay that strip down so it stays in the center and doesn't show at the edges. And it will turn for you. It's more flexible than it seems when you first start out. And lay it all the way around here. There we go. Okay, see see that little tiny gap? That's not enough for one of those stars to fall through, so it'll be okay. And then peel it up. The other side, get that out of there. So that's going to be ready. Now, to put it on the front of your card, you take your little hearts here, and I'm just going to dump them. Now, some of them are white because the backs of the paper is white. That's okay. We got some of everything in there, and that's all right. And I'm just going to kind of put them all towards the middle, just like that. And then I'll stick this over the top of it, centering it, which is what I decided to do. That looks good. And there's your shaker card. Isn't that just adorable? And then I had already stamped and cut out the just a little reminder that you are loved sentiment. And that works for sweethearts, that works for children, that works for friends that are dear to you. It's a universal sentiment. And I just put it down here at the bottom. Now, I played around a little bit. You can tell me what you think. I thought about, oh, I lost it. Here it is. I did this piece from the Florets set, and I colored it in, and I thought about putting it on the front and adding more to it like this, and I decided no, that it was simple and pretty just the way it was. So that's what I did. And there's card number 2, and another little trick of how you can utilize those beautiful frames that are in that set. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Stay tuned at the end. I have a little short video. One thing I do when I have discontinued, as a demonstrator, discontinued designer series papers, I save them and I use them to make paper projects with my Silhouette Cameo cutter. And so I made a 3D Christmas tree all lit up, and I took a little video of it, and it'll come up right at the end of this video so you can see what it looks like. It was a lot of fun to make, and it's a beautiful piece, and so it gave me a way to use my DSP, because it seems like I always have a lot left over. And so anyway, thanks again for stopping by. I'm glad you did stop by. I hope that you will like this video, do a like, do a share, make a comment. It helps my logistics and analytics and all of that, so I get more viewers, and I love to share what I do. You have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.